The following program is rated PG. Parental guidance is recommended.
Hi, and welcome to Balance. This is a show where we talk about all things related to our lives as women, different ages, different career paths, different backgrounds, and different aspirations also. Just to close out the last time we were here, we spoke about money management, and then we figured we might have to bring a money expert to take us through it so that then we are educated as you're also getting educated. But today we're talking about being you. You know, your authenticity, being yourself. I noticed over the weekend when I was interacting with a few groups of people that, you know, in every group there's a whole DNA to it, and you almost have to blend with them and sort of like lose your personality. And then you go to this group, you change even your language and your character in a way, you know, just to keep fitting. But then I thought to myself, who really am I? And if I'm feeling like this, other people feeling also like that, like what is that about? So I just wanted us to discuss about, you know, authenticity, owning yourself, just being your unique self no matter where you go, and not in a way to dominate or overpower other people, but then, you know, still not to lose your essence as such. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Millie, are you yourself? Bella, are you yourself? You know?
I think the older you become, the more you become yourself. Because it's like the facades, the pretense. You don't have energy, honestly. You don't have time for it. And then you have spent time learning what you like, what you don't like, what your values are, what you're trying to achieve in life, who are the people you want to spend time with. Because nowadays it's like 24 hours is not enough. It's like we need extra time. It's like we're working, we have side hustles, people have family, people have kids, relationships. If you're like me trying to grow in Christ, you need time for God also. So by the time the end of the day reaches, it's like you're so exhausted. So I found that I think age is a factor when you're trying to determine who you are. If you find out who you are earlier in life, that's even better. But like honestly, I think I started knowing who I am after I became 30. And I'm still learning who I am. And then I think the people who you spend the most time with have a say, not even have a say, or have an effect on who you become. So if you're always with your girlfriends, or if you have mixed friends, or if you, with your, I don't know, fellowship in church, if you're spending time in the club, you start to see, really, if you call yourself to a meeting, you start to see your character based on who you're spending time with. So for me, I've seen that's also helped shape who I am.
Because for me, I think the fear is, of course, there's the difference between a mosaic and a collage. And I feel like when you're interacting with different people at different places, you're picking up pieces here and there. And then when you look at yourself, you're a collage. You know, you're like a, you know, it's you mechanganyana, you know. So I don't know.
I think also another element of being yourself is self-acceptance. You know, how as you progress in your life, how much of yourself do you accept? You know, and also, you know, accepting yourself in totality. There are times it feels like we accept ourselves in pieces. You know, I accept a certain part of myself, the other part I don't like. I sort of reject it, in quotes. So there's also the element of self-acceptance. And I think it's a powerful one, because the more you accept yourself, you know, the more you will be yourself. And also understanding yourself, understanding what drives you, you know, what is it that makes you move, what is it that makes you do what you do, the understanding of yourself. The deeper and the better you understand yourself, the more you will tend to be yourself. And so the more you'll not tend to get carried away, or the collages will go reducing.
Become a tapestry.
Yes, and you find yourself, whatever the situation, you know, you will, if it's work setting, if it's family setting, if it's wherever you are, you'll just be yourself. And yes, I agree with you. Also, age brings that element of, you know, just being yourself. And then there's also the stabilizing yourself, you know, really, I don't know how you would put it, but just being very, very, this is me, this is how I am. Maybe authentic, you know, that authenticness, being you. So whatever your situation, are you. Yeah, so there are those elements for me, I think, that are important.
I never even thought about it as self-acceptance. I just felt like, you're old enough, so no one can tell me. Like me, I'm already like this, I'm set in my ways. I never thought about it as I've accepted who I am, so okay, let's live this life now. The bigger part that's remaining, let's live it out the way we are. But do you find that you have, like, there are times you have identity crisis? Like, it's like you know who you are, and then there's something that happens
There's
like,
who I am on the inside, and then on the outside, they're not matching.
yeah. So have you found, like, you face, like, identity crisis?
I think that's a story of my life, because so many times I find myself like at crossroads, and not that I'm looking for the dramatic effects of that. It's just that you find yourself in a place where, I think school, there are rules to be followed. You're supposed to do things like this and like the other. But for me, I'm always having a creative idea of how to go about the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And then the moment you try that, you find yourself now literally, you've gone off, it's a mistake, it's a big deal, you've broken a rule, and that was not really your intention. You wanted to achieve the goal, but then now your method is what is the rule breaker. So now I end up I've had situations where I know I have stifled my creativity to sort of like fit in, or stifled my unique self, sort of like avoid conflict. So that really even makes me even more conflicted within myself. I don't know if it's making sense, guys.
It does. I wanted to touch a bit on identity crisis. You know, I guess so I always say, out of people reading Google and and interacting with Google, they tend to mention words, which is okay. Yes. In psychology, we say you start the identity crisis at teenage, because at teenage is when you struggle. The identity crisis comes in this sense: you want to know, who am I? The biggest question when you're at teenage is, who am I? Am I a woman? Am I a man? You know, it feels funny when I say it, because people assume that you generally accept being who you are. But at that point, at teenage, you ask yourself, am I a man? Am I a woman? You know, who am I? For people who probably, they are looking for their fathers, others are looking for their mothers, because you remember your family background, you know, makes you understand who you are. And then you start thinking, why am I here in this world? So it's at that point that you start having that identity crisis. What is my purpose? It begins at teenage. You ask yourself, what is my purpose? And we say that for you to live well, you need to negotiate that stage. Because if you don't negotiate your identity, then you probably go through a very big time of your life just trying to identify who you are. And identity comes in so many formats. You know, it's about your female, your gender. It's about what is your purpose in the world. It's about what is your drive. It's about what you want to do. And so you can see yourself as a teenager if you look back and see how many of those things did you negotiate. And if the more you negotiated them, the easier it is to find self-acceptance. The more time you took to negotiate, the harder it was. Because you can imagine if, for example, just let's take the gender issue. If you didn't negotiate your gender, so how long have you gone on wondering, am I really man or am I really woman? And now we understand it better, because now we have those people who have really come out, you know. Before it was not something that was spoken about. So then you go into the crisis of, who am I? Why am I here in this world? How many of us have found our purpose? Even at 50, at 60, you're still grappling to find, what is my purpose? What did I really come to this world to do? You know? And so you swing between wanting this today, doing that tomorrow, doing that. And so you will tend to flow with whatever comes. So if someone comes to you and says, hey, Vayo, there's this being done, you flow with it. And I guess that's where the collage comes. Yes. Because you're keeping on trying to find, what is my purpose? So, you know, even amongst the three of us would ask, have we found our purpose?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Have we found our purpose?
Yeah. I feel like, okay, about purpose finding, I would not say I know what my purpose is, like word for word, but I find that in like every, the different seasons, whether it's crisis or it's a good time, I find that in that particular time, this was what I was doing, and it felt fulfilling, to satisfying. I felt I made a difference. And then something else comes, maybe it's a crisis, and in that, because of course nothing lasts forever, these too shall pass. So in that particular time, maybe I was the one to anchor someone or to hold something together, that kind of thing. So I wouldn't say I have a broad stroke of what the purpose is, but I find that in different scenarios and different situations, I can tell what I'm there to do, and I think it kind of, that keeps me a bit comforted, that I'm not too lost in the world.
Have you taken some time off to be like, let me dig deep and find what my purpose is? Because I agree with you that situations shape who we are, they shape what our purpose may end up being, but there are those things, the way you're saying, like if you look back, there are things you start to notice. They're like, I'm always drawn to, every time this happens, then like you always find there are similar things. Like for me, I think I'm a very good encourager. Like I don't like people wallowing in like trouble. It's like, oh, but my life, oh, but this, oh, money, that. I'm like, yes, and maybe I'm going through the same thing. I understand, yes, there's a season, the way you're saying, but like, I find like, it almost brings me down when someone is talking like that. So it's like my encourager hat now is my personality for encouragement. Has to be one, and I push until I see that person is coming out of their deep hole or something.
A good way to think about your purpose is to think, it's a good way, is to think, if you die now, what would people remember you for? You see, what would, if we were to write a sentence on your grave or a word, what would we write? You know, it's because then that makes you think, really, so what's my purpose? What have I done so far? What is this that has driven me? So a sentence or a word that can, you know, we can identify with you, or we can place there and say, Bella what? You know, Bella equals, or a sentence, Bella, you know, Bella this. So that gives you that thought, and you think, so am I going through my purpose? Am I taking my purpose? Am I carrying my purpose? Because if I was to rest today, then what would people say? One word or one sentence. And that's a good way to think about it. And you would then be able to reflect a lot on your personal life and see, are you living your purpose? Yeah.
Thank you for that, because for me, I was actually thinking, hey, maybe I need to do a silent retreat, you know, where there are no phones, you know, and you wake up and you're meditating, because I really need to do. But that's a good way to, But then again, Millie, I have a question, because you said about putting on your encourager hat. Do you think that sometimes when we're encouraging people, it's us rejecting wallowing in ourselves? So we wear those hats and encourage others because, we reject wallowing in ourselves. So we're like, I don't know. It's just,
maybe it's, part of it maybe is deflection. Because maybe sometimes I find you encourage people more in a situation you're going through that's similar. It's like, let me encourage them, I deflect, but really deep down, even you're encouraging yourself.
You're suffering.
But other times I think it's that you... not even you're trying to deflect, it's just there's a part of you that comes out that normally, unless something like this is happening, you never show. Because it's not like, you don't walk around just to encourage. I mean, you should encourage people because life can be hard, but you don't usually walk around in town like, excuse me, you look like you need some encouragement. Can I talk to you for 1 minute? But I think it's when a situation presents itself, because really if you're living in these times currently, honestly, everybody needs encouragement of some way, shape or form. And there are people who are just very good at giving it. There are other people who are very good at receiving it. Because sometimes you can be encouraged just like, me, don't tell me, just send me the money, me, I sort out my issue. I don't need big words, I don't need big English. Send me the answer. My M-Pesa is open, I have Fuliza so you can top up. So sometimes I think a part of you is brought out when you need it to come out. And then sometimes I think it's brought out for you to also identify. Because maybe you don't know. Because someone will be like, I like Vayo because, even that's another thing to add to your tombstone. It's like, I liked Vayo because, you listen, what did guys say that was common?
Genuine then tombstone.
We
say you are a very, very good person.
I know, and maybe you aren't.
Someone who was saying how when you go to a funeral, the people at the front, they just speak good things. At the back of the tent,
that's ground.
You know the real person. If you want to know the real person, go to the back.
Oh my
of the
goodness!
Tent. Yeah, it's true.
That's where all the stories are being said. But seriously, I think. Thank you for that tool. Thank you for adding that snippet of the tool. Because then as we continue to discover ourselves and figure out our purposes at whatever age and whatever season we're in, it will help us also just to own ourselves and to, not to shy away from who we really are and what we're here for. And that for me, because that's something I've been thinking about so much, and I feel like maybe we don't discuss it enough. Yeah, maybe we don't discuss it enough. I think we really should be proud of ourselves and, you know, with all our quirks.
Yeah, but you see, we are living in a time where we are so drawn to the internet, we are so drawn to the television, we are so drawn, and you know, they make us want to think of a certain way that you should be, you know, that you should be. But I always ask, you know, because for me it feels like the world wants us to be like uniform, or like this glass.
Homogeneous.
Yes, like glass production, you know. But imagine how strange it would be if we all looked alike.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about it?
True.
How strange would it be?
Yeah.
Then how would I identify you? Because you look like me. Yeah, so I was giving the image of the tree in terms of look at the tree. The tree, the stump is big, and it's what stabilizes the tree.
Yeah.
And so you'll find that majority will be there. And then the branches, so I was saying the different branches, some are strong, some are weak. Look, because it's an assumption, weak, because that branch that looks weak probably will be the one that will survive the strong wind, because it's flexible. It looks weak, but it's probably flexible. And the different branches will produce different fruits depending on their capability. So here, the stem is what the commonality we have, and then we all branch out. So you branch out as a doctor, I branch out as a nurse, I branch out as a cleaner, I branch out as a, you know, mechanic. We all branch out. But in reality, because my challenge is that, you know, this thing that we must all conform, is the mechanic better than the doctor? Is the doctor better than the mechanic? Exactly. Yes, yeah. They each have their place. Yeah. That's really, you know, well said. They each have their place. And so indeed, we need to understand. And that's where I was saying the self-acceptance comes. That the moment you understand that you have your place in the world, whatever you are, whoever you are, however you are, you have your place in your world. And if you sit well in your place, the world will go on well. Yeah. If each of us sat in our places well, the world would go on well.
But what if, like, now, that tree, the way we learned agriculture or like science, I guess, is there are certain plants that are drawn to sunlight. Yes. So you'll place a plant in a certain room, but you'll find it's like it's facing where the sun usually comes through, but there are places where maybe one side of it is struggling. So does that then imply that we are more drawn to, like, maybe the time for our parents was like these 4 big jobs, and then the others were for, you know, the other children, like other, I don't know. So do we find, like, in that analogy you've just given, if the tree is drawn towards where the sunlight is, we find a move of people going that way? The same way we see, like, different trends, like the time for quails, it was like, oh, okay, quail made me, I don't know, 100K, I don't know, 2 days or something. Everybody moves like that. So do you see the same thing in, like, psychology, where it's people have a common goal, I mean, or maybe commonality, and they want to branch out, but then you find, like, the tree is swaying more to one side than a different side.
But look at the tree. The tree is looking for the sunlight. So when you as a human being, you're swaying towards the quail, what are you looking for? Money. Because you are told there's money. Yes. You know, remember the tree is very stable. And for it, it's just looking for what it needs. For us, we are drawn towards things that we think sometimes we need, but they are not really needs, they are wants. And they really draw us. And, you know, we keep running, because we want to buy, you know, I have this yellow, I don't know if this is yellow, mustard. And I want the same in green, I want the same in red, you know, and so I'm drawn not by the need, by the want, you know, but the tree is being drawn by the need for sunlight. I'm being drawn by the want for sunlight. If this is my sunlight, and I'm being drawn and drawn and drawn. And this is the challenge, that we are being drawn and drawn and drawn. And we are consuming so much. We are in a world of consumption. Every day. And that is actually one of the things that derails our purpose. Because we consume, we are always consuming. We are consuming internet, we are consuming food, we are consuming, you know, think about the past. You'd hardly find people who are obese. But now we are consumers. We are consumers of food, we are consumers of internet, we are consumers of everything. You know, we're even consumers of the emotional and mental energy of others. We drain others. You know, we are in a very consuming kind of world, you know, so and that makes us lose our focus, makes us lose who we are. Because the more you're drawn into consumption, you're running after something. So what time do you have to breathe in and think about yourself, reflect, and really understand your purpose, you know? So as much as we want, again, it's a pull and push, because as much as we want to blame others, what about us? In terms of our role in finding ourselves, in finding self-acceptance, in being who we are. What is our role? What have we done for ourselves? If I was to ask you today, did you do anything that, you know, drove you more towards your purpose?
I mean, we are sitting right.
You're being rude, you're shouting. You're shouting.
As much as the world was pulling you,
Yes.
how did you draw back? To pull yourself back
But
to
then
your
at what
purpose?
point, yes, I have to draw back. But what I'm hearing is that I'll need some strength to draw back. You know, strength to put away the phone and not be on TikTok the whole day. Strength to, you know, say, no, guys, I cannot join you for that party, and then stay at home and maybe clean the house. I don't know. I need strength to say, hey, I'm not going to be part of this anymore, and, you know, I might miss out on whatever I deem a benefit, but then it's bigger for me to be away, or rather be withdrawn from that scenario.
Strength to not even talk, you know, the way some people talk, negative
Yes.
language.
Yes.
Strength to not, you know, consume. Strength to not, are you finding yourself trying to gather that strength to pull away and to pull back to yourself? Because, you know, what happens is like we're just being pulled and stretching ourselves. And that's why actually people use the term, I'm being stretched. Yes. So you need to pull back from being stretched.
But where am I getting the strength from? Like, is it... Because
Maybe that's
not
those
all of us have
retreats.
this inner, that's because you need an inner muscle to actually be able to say, no, I don't have to put on the latest hairstyle.
Yes. I don't have to change my hair every 2 weeks.
Yes.
I don't have to change my spectacles. I see people who wear specs, they change specs.
Frames and
yes,
what? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
It's
to
a
match
pull.
the outfits.
Yeah, exactly, it's
Yeah.
a pull. Do you have the strength to say that, you know? Do you have the strength to say, I'm going to stop at this point? This is the point. For people, like, let's say, for example, who consume alcohol, you're in a club. Do you have the strength to say, this is my limit, 4 bottles are my limit. And even if I stay here for 3 hours or 10 hours, I'll just have my 4 bottles. Do I have the strength? You see, because it feels like, and it's you, like you're doing wrong to stay in the club and not pull the 10 bottles.
Yes.
And that is why, you know, the negative of the club, the negative image of the club, because once you're there, you're like having to go all the way.
Yes.
But you don't have to go all the way. So that's why I'm saying the balance, the ability to balance yourself, the ability to reflect. But I think one of the things that people don't do a lot is self-reflection.
Yes, I agree.
You see, at the end of the day, you can take 5 minutes and ask yourself, was my day good for me? Not good for the world. Because remember, again, we're talking about self.
Yes.
Was my day good for me? Did I achieve what I wanted to do?
That's a good question.
Did I achieve my purpose?
Yeah, I think even maybe having, for people who journal, I found that gratitude journals really help with what you've just said. It's every day I'm going to write 3 things that I'm thankful for this day. Maybe it's I'm thankful that I left the house and I came back. Because there are people who leave and don't come home. And then I'm thankful that I got 1 step closer to what my goal was. So even in thinking about the question you asked about how are we finding our purpose, I think there's a place for habit forming. Because there's those things you're saying, like, when will I know my limit is 4 bottles? When will I know my limit is... It's like, what habit have you developed? Because habits really help with that. Initially, it's hard. But once you get into the habit, it's very easy to, and people usually know. There are things you usually do that people are like, you know, when she says that, that conversation has ended. Like that's a thing that people have seen habitually happen. So I think there's a place for habit forming when you're trying to find a structure so that you're not stretched or you're not pulled too far apart. And then there's a place for discipline. Because if you know, God created the world in 6 days. He rested on the 7th. We don't do that. We're like, okay, the work I did, because I'm also side hustling, I didn't finish Monday to Friday. So Saturday and Sunday, I must make up. And really what happens is on Monday, you're fatigued. And it's the same thing when you're trying to figure out your purpose or your life. It's, you've been going. When do you stop? The way you're saying, I think you've said that in previous episodes. It's when do you stop so that you can grow? Like how do you say every 3 months on the last weekend of the quarter, I will take a day and I'll just go and reflect, like my goals I set, how far am I? How am I doing? Am I doing badly? What can we change? What habits do I need to put in place? Because if it's January, we put like 20 things, honestly. You're like, hey, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose 20 kilos in 6 weeks. I mean, come on. Unless you're starving yourself or like you completely wipe out your cupboard. I think it's, if you create that discipline that I don't know, the way you're saying, every evening I'm going to write down 3 things I'm thankful for. Every quarter, I'm going to review my goals. I see where I am. I see what I need to change. And if it's about emotional awareness or about personality or about I want to grow but Nani is holding me back, every, 6 months, I'm going to review my people, who is in my circle, who has been speaking into my life, who's been speaking out of my life. You start to clean up. And at the end of the year, you find, if I've not called this person in the last year, delete number.
Yeah, but I also tell people that you know, because we want to speak about the people who are not doing well for me, but am I doing well for others? True. You know, and it's very hard to look at. We say in psychology, it's very hard to look at yourself in the mirror. You need to keep looking at yourself in the mirror and genuinely look at yourself, because we say that are people doing well for me? But are we doing well for people? Are we doing well for people? What is our impact on other people's lives? And its impact is daily. It's every minute. It's every hour. You know, everyone you come into contact with, however small, however little, you know, however big.
Add value.
Yes. Do you add value with your words, with your actions, with even your silence? Do you add value?
You must add value always.
With your silence. Yes.
Add value with your uniqueness.
Yes.